Hi guys, I'm just going to walk you through this handout for the creative revision really quickly, and the preface, which is a really important part of your creative revision. The assignment is worth 130 points. The draft isn't due until the 24th, and the final's due December 3rd. So you have a little bit of time. Unlike a traditional revision, which requires you to just improve your composition for the same audience, purpose, and context, what you're doing here is changing the rhetorical situation of one of your major writing assignments, so project 1 or project 2, to a new rhetorical situation. So you're going to choose a new audience, purpose, angle, or context for your major writing assignment, right? And then make changes to that assignment to fit this new situation. Usually what that looks like is my students changing the context and basically saying like, okay, I'm going to take this from an essay and turn it into a podcast or turn it into a poem or a video game or a painting or a podcast, right? It's usually they change kind of the medium of their assignment, but I've had other students who keep essays, they keep the essay format, and they end up altering the essay for a different audience. So they change it to where it's written um, in the in the sort of like vocabulary usage of a business major or the vocabulary usage of like a 7-year-old, um, and they change it for a different audience, and you can also change the purpose or the angle, right? So try to think pretty broadly about how you can change this to a new rhetorical situation. Um, yeah, yeah. And if you have a crazy idea, but you think maybe it's too crazy, just email me or message me and we'll talk about it. And probably it's not too crazy and would be totally awesome. So, um, the hardest part of this is the preface, which is going to be about 500 words. And it can be more than 500 words, but it should be about 500 words long, where you basically identify the rhetorical situation of your original draft, right? Your original essay that you turned into me as project 1 or project 2. You're going to kind of say like, okay, my rhetorical situation was this, and these are the choices I made to create this essay in this way, um, and this is how it turned out. And then this is my new rhetorical situation for my new assignment, for my creative revision, and these are the choices that I made to change it, right? So in the preface, you'll be addressing things like, right, the very basics, like what is your new rhetorical situation? So you're going to really clearly identify your new audience, purpose, or context. You're also going to say how your new rhetorical situation differs from the original. You're going to explain why you chose this new rhetorical situation. Like, it could be as simple as like, I really love painting, and I thought that this assignment would lend itself to a really beautiful painting um, about XYZ thing, right? Or it could be something really complicated, like, I have another assignment where I developed XYZ set of skills and I wanted to use those skills for this assignment because they're fresh in my head. It can be anything, right? But you just want to clearly identify why you chose this new rhetorical situation and why you kind of took the project in the direction that you have taken it. Um, and then, right, what changes did you make to your major writing assignment, right? Project 1 or project 2 for the creative revision. So what kind of stuff um, got left out, right? Probably the chances of you taking on a new creative or a new rhetorical situation and keeping everything in your essay intact is not high. So what things kind of got left out, what new stuff got added, what kind of things got shifted around in order to make this like transformation. Um, and then why did you make these changes, right? And so you can also discuss changes that you considered making but decided not to, or even directions that you thought about taking the project and then kind of were like, yeah, I don't really want to do that after all. Yeah, so that's what your preface should do. The creative revision itself, right, like I said earlier, is where you just take your rhetorical situation and change it somehow. And again, the most common thing that I see with my students is them changing the context, which is how someone encounters that specific argument or idea. So they'll change it to, right, a painting, a video game, a comic, a podcast, um, a dramatic reenactment. I actually had a student do a performative dance at one point, um, and he did a good job with it. So, um, right, the really hard part is writing the preface, I think, and explaining how you're transforming an essay into this other new thing that it's going to become. So really I encourage you guys to think pretty broadly about what you want to do, what skills you have, what skills you want to develop, and like how much time really you have for creating this new thing. And then here's some tips and tricks, right? So begin by collecting the different versions of your project, right? Project 1 or Project 2. Look at your peer reviews, look at your instructor feedback, and think about how maybe some of that information can help you get an idea of where to go. Come up with a new rhetorical situation for your major writing assignment. So you can, again, you can pick a different audience, or you can pick a different purpose, or a different context. And a lot of the time, when you change the context, kind of the audience changes as well. So these things are going to shift around a little bit. Make sure to fully explain this new rhetorical situation, though, and along with your reasons for choosing that new rhetorical situation, and then revise your major writing assignment, right, Project 1 or Project 2, to fit this rhetorical situation, including changes to genre, modes, and medium as appropriate. So um, don't create a whole new assignment. Really think about how you can take what you've already created through your time and your research and your work for Project 1 or Project 2 and turn it into something different and something new. So what I want to do, if you have questions, please email me. This assignment's pretty far out there. It's a very different and unusual type of assignment than I've seen in any other English class outside of UNM. And so as such, if you guys have questions, I don't blame you, and I really encourage you to contact me and kind of like brainstorm different sorts of ideas, or even just ask like, hey, what about this thing? Would that actually work? I'm also going to be posting this which is an example of a preface and a creative revision, along with the essay that was converted into a poem. So here's the preface. I think she uses a little bit more than 500 words to get through what she wants to say. And one of the things that I really want to see from you guys is something she does here, where she says, okay, I really like the work of this poet, Richard Wilbur, right? And this is the kind of work that he does, right? And this is the kind of pattern that his poetry takes, right? She says it specifically does an A-B-B-A pattern. And she says, and that's what I wanted to imitate with this poem. And so she's literally telling us how she came up with this new poem and the kinds of influences and structure that she drew from other poets and other pieces of work, right? And that is the kind of stuff I want to see from you guys. So if you write a song, I want you to say like, hey, I really like this other song, or this musician, or this album. And these are the reasons I like this song or this musician and this album. And these are the ways that my song that I created imitates the positive things that I see in this other work, right? Same thing. If you're doing a painting, say like, I really love uh, Van Gogh, and you can see here in my painting that I'm striving to recreate, his use of brilliant color and movement or whatever. Right, what I really need to see you guys is, I want to see your work, like clearly identify sort of like what or who you're emulating with your creative revision, and clearly identify like what in that you're emulating. So like, I am copying the ABBA structure of this poet, or I am copying the the color usage of Van Gogh, or I am copying the usage of humorous body forms in XYZ comic book, right? Really definitely like dig into the genre conventions that you're using to create your creative revision. So here's her poem about Riesling. She did a lot of writing and research about wine and wine drinking and wine production throughout the semester. Um, and then all of that information got condensed into this really cool poem. And then under that, she has her final draft. So that's the essay that she actually submitted for her second major writing assignment. And then under that, she has the draft with her peer review draft. So it has comments on it from her peers and stuff like that. All right, this is what I would like to see from you guys when you submit your creative revision is a preface, right? And a preface that definitely um, identifies the genre or whatever it is that you're moving to. It identifies how you're changing it, and then identifies um, what genre constraints you're emulating, right, in your work. So if you do a podcast, definitely say like, hey, I've heard this podcast, and I really like the way they do X, Y, and Z, and I wanted to do those things in my podcast, and that's how I achieved this, right? Like definitely try to like explain um, what you're doing and how you're doing it. um, yeah, so this your assignment will look a little bit different because it's going to be in an online portfolio, and so you have a lot more creative control over how it's presented and everything. But it still has to contain the same elements, right? Like I still will need to see the original draft, right? I'll still need to see a preface, and I'll still need to see the creative revision itself. So if you have questions about this, definitely send me an email or message me as soon as you can. And like, do not hesitate to email me with crazy ideas for stuff that's like way outside the box. Because I've had really interesting things submitted. I've had baked goods submitted. I've had small computer programs submitted. I've had collaborative, like short films done by two students in the same class. Like, really kind of think pretty broadly about what you want to do, and don't hesitate to pitch a crazy idea. So, all right, let me know if you have questions.